Armored Core lore. Agraya, a personal raven from within Crest during the events of Armored Core Nexus. Just who is this female pilot? The truth is, nobody seems to know, and those that would have vanished from this earth. From what we do know thanks to Armored Core Nexus, is that Agraya was never a raven registered with Raven Arc. Instead, she is referred to as a raven of Crest's personal stable, making her the first of this kind. After all, most ravens would work as independent parties, which would show no favour to any side in a war. Their job was simply to sort out matters that a client or corporation could pay for. Yet it seems Crest would have their own take on this, as after all, why bid for a raven when you can have one or more loyal to the corporation as an employee? Agraya is one of these, and it is guessed that as a young woman she would have already been within Crest as part of their military force, more than likely the Muscle Tracer forces. This is only due to the history of Armored Core 3, where Muscle Tracer pilots could become ravens by taking the Raven's test. However, in Crest's case, this could be the same, only with more Crest ideas behind it. But this is all a theory. Yet it is perhaps during this time as a trainee raven and as a raven that Agraya and Shinobi, the number one raven of Raven's Arc, became close. It is well known now that Shinobi favoured taking Crest missions over any other corporation, and that he, like other ravens, seemed to possess Human Plus or OP Intensified-like abilities. Agraya would also possess these abilities. It is quite possible she, much like Shinobi, is a Crest experiment into modifying ravens. Although we do see little of Agraya, there are a few key events that show all this, starting with her first appearance during the mission where the Raven of Nexus must push back a Crest invasion force on one of their frontline bases in Navis territory. It's here Agraya would come in later and fight with the Raven of Nexus, saying, "Let me show you what happens to those who oppose Crest." This is the first point, her loyalty to the corporation. She is not bragging about her skills as a Raven, but instead what happens when the Raven opposes the corporation she belongs to. The Raven and Agraya, in her Armored Core Redheart, would battle one another until she is forced to retreat due to damage the Raven caused. There would be an email on Agraya after the mission, and this is where we learn she is a Raven from Crest's personal stable of Armored Core pilots, and her being there showed how committed Crest was to the attack. This points out that Agraya clearly has been making waves before this attack to be noticed. As such, it's very possible before the events of Nexus, Agraya was performing missions before this, cutting into the 50-year period between the Silent Line incident and the Navis War in Armored Core Nexus. Would this mean she is an older woman? Perhaps. After all, the training required to become a pilot varies between pilots. So either Agraya is a young woman with exceptional skill, or she is an older woman who has learned from her mistakes and guidance from Shinobi, making her a fearsome Crest-loyal Raven. We must also not forget that if Agraya was being tested on, time between being modified, recovery and training may have led to her being an exceptional young pilot or an older and wiser Raven. Yet age aside, the facts of the matter are that Agraya would not be seen again until Mirage hired the Raven Nexus to kill her on the rooftop of Bayload City, where they tricked Crest into sending her out, even if she is well aware on arrival it's a trap, and she even says so before going on to speak to the Raven of Nexus. It's during this battle Agraya will show more about herself, the first being when she has taken a large amount of damage. She will say, "I didn't think the Ark still had pilots like you." It's not a huge indication, however it shows that Agraya has been around long enough to know the difference in strength between the old Ravens of Raven Arc and the new ones. Another important sentence that leaves her mouth as her dying breath is one that will open up thoughts for years to come, and it is this line:
"I'm sorry, Shinobi."
These few words may not seem important, however they could show that this Crest in-house Raven seemed to have a relationship with the number one Raven. Romantic? Maybe. Perhaps a teacher. Again, this is possible. But they may also have just been friends. Yet it's this relationship that would later lead to a theory, and maybe what happened to Agraya, as this battle does have two ways to end. The first is the Raven of Nexus defeats Agraya. With her last breath, she apologizes to Shinobi. This leads to an email that Crest cannot locate her, and if she cannot be found, they will lose a great asset. In this way, it seems to suggest Agraya would be dead, killed by the Raven who would later take the life of Shinobi. But then there is also the second outcome, as should the Raven be unable to kill her, she will disappear from public eye, and Crest would still not be able to contact her. It is this outcome that leads into a theory that Agraya would lose her name, Armored Core, and take on a new persona, Zenaida, a new Raven that is operational during the events of Last Raven. Her link to Agraya comes from the bio of another Raven alive during this period named Mollycoddle, which reads, "Currently employed by Alliance HQ. Mollycoddle was removed from the Alliance Tactical Unit roster by Evangel for failing to meet the grade. He is a poorly skilled pilot who has trouble taking advantage of his armored core setup. It is rumored that Zenaida is out to get him." The reason for this chase? It is suggested that because this lacking pilot is using the same armored core design as the once ranking Raven Shinobi, who lost his life to the Raven Nexus, that behind this identity of Zenaida is really Agraya, the student, lover, friend, or admirer of Shinobi, who cannot stand to see such a lackluster Raven pilot the armored core of a pilot who stood above all others years ago. But this is just a theory. After all, sometimes it is up to us to decide which fate this female Raven had, and if she became another. Still, to end this report, let us take a look at Redheart, the armored core of this skilled pilot, and to start with, to be blunt, a Raven could not simply jump into Redheart and use it. The reason? Much like Jewelface, the armored core of Shinobi, Redheart is overweight, and at this point, this armored core is only useful against muscle tracers, as other armored cores will see Redheart as a slow-moving target. Even tuning all parts in weight reduction would not allow a non-human plus or OP intensified Raven to pilot Redheart. As such, the Crest must be stripped of parts to allow it to work. Is it fair to judge Redheart this way? No, not really. After all, this cuts the firepower of this craft in half. However, I shall only be looking at the arm weapons of Redheart, as with only 2 weapons to be able to use, it's best to focus on the ones that can be fired together and not force the Raven to kneel to fire. The CRWR-84S shotgun is a weapon with a case of it does what it says on the tin. The shotgun can do high close combat damage to armored cores and MTs, killing some muscle tracers in 2 shots. Yet its only downfall is it has to be close. Shooting far away will lead this weapon to be no better than a pea shooter, and will end up using more ammo to kill a target than a rifle. The CRWL-95G portable grenade launcher is the more damage dealing of this pair, and yet while it can shoot a lot further away from a target than its shotgun partner, the CRWL-95G does like close range shots more, as further ranges can result in misses. As for the craft itself, speed is no problem for Redheart, and dodging should not be a problem, if the Raven strips Redheart of most of her firepower. In the end, what a Raven really will be piloting is half of what Redheart is meant to be. This ends the report on the Raven named Agraya and her armored core, Redheart.